I think we're gonna wait a few minutes before we start. But for the people joining, don't hesitate to tell us where you come from, also what you would like to learn during this session. And I think for the while we're waiting, maybe we can introduce ourselves so that they know a bit better uh, who they are listening to. So I can start. So my name is Flavien. So basically, I'm a product manager at AppTweak. I've been working at AppTweak for 5 years, almost six now. So it's been a while. So I've been jumping from one scope to another, and now I'm actually like in charge of the ASO intelligence tool. And here we have Elizabeth, who will be very yeah, will share very insightful knowledge about the creatives. But yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Devine. I am an app growth consultant, which at AppTweak basically means I am an ASO expert who executes projects for clients and gives them ASO tips and insights throughout the year. And I have about 10, 11 years experience doing ASO, but I've only been with AppTweak for about a year and a half. Um, and I'm really excited to share our strategies for this webinar. So thank you so much for everyone who's here.
Okay, I think we can start. So I will let you, Elizabeth, introduce the topic of this hour, so that we know a bit more what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with in the last month, say September's been very busy for both the Google Play Store team and the App Store team because they've announced so many new changes. We've got a little slide summarizing them for iPhones, iPads on the App Store. We have the liquid glass UI features. Everybody's got these new spiffy icons that are going to aid conversions, especially for Explore traffic. We've got organic custom product pages, which are still very new and cutting edge, tons of potential, but we don't really have exact metrics on their success yet. And Apple is launching their Games app, which is a huge, huge deal for our gaming clients. On Google Play, we've got portrait orientation videos that have been available for a while. Google just announced their first AI feature, which is a suggested search feature, kind of guided search is what they're calling it. And they're announcing a new creative placement called the Hero Banner Carousel, which is essentially feature graphics, but at the top of the screen. So I know a lot of our clients are already scrambling to try to prepare for those things, but with the year coming to an end and a brand new year about to start, I think there are some strategies that they could be implementing right now, regardless of these new features, that I'm hoping to bring their attention to through this webinar. For many mature apps, about 70% of your total downloads month over month are going to be re-downloads. So that's people who've uninstalled your app and reinstalled it, or people who have updated their devices and are now installing on a new device. And most clients don't realize that the user experience can be quite different for those two different groups. Re-downloads, especially for the App Store, see something different than first-time users. So if that's the majority of your traffic and you've been optimizing for first-time downloads, the question becomes, what could you be doing differently to tailor your creatives to re-engage and convert returning users to the App Store? And if you're already saturated in your primary market, where do you expand in the next year to reach those growth goals that you have? And so we are going to discuss some strategies for that.
Yeah, so that's really nice. Thanks for the introduction. So for you, like for these topics, where would you start? Basically, for the redownloads, what would be your strategy, and why do you think creatives matter for this?
Creatives are visual, and most human beings are visual beings. So having a very strong creative presence and a first impression that's going to wow a user regardless of whether they're brand new or returning is incredibly crucial. So in AppTweak, we have the Creatives Explorer umbrella. This is where we house all of our creative tools. I am a creative optimizations expert within the consultant team, so this is where I spend a lot of my time. And you are already actually exactly where I would want to start in the screenshot library. I know you worked really hard on this feature, so maybe you can explain what this is before I
Yeah,
explain
so
how I
for the
would use it.
yeah, so for the past I think almost 2 years, basically we worked on this creative hub, creating features that are aligned with the different use cases that we heard from clients. One that is super powerful is the screenshot library. So this one, we have a whole data science team who they worked on this feature a lot, leveraging AI. So basically how it works, every time that we start fetching screenshots on the stores, basically we'll just, the algorithm and the AI will scan the screenshot, extract kind of a description for the screenshot, and also assign a tag so that we categorize them. So then for you, it's really easy to browse then in this screenshot library. It's very, very easy. And as you can see, you also have tags so that you can, if you don't have any idea of for this category, how many, what are the most recurring tags, let's say in this category, you can directly click on it and get kind of some insights. Here you can see that in the category all, like we have mainly, you have screenshots with humans. So that's already like a nice insight. So yeah. So here, like, I mean, I guess you can introduce an example on how you would use it for this topic.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is try to address the voice of customer. We have ratings and reviews, we've got customer service teams, they've been gathering feedback, and we understand why people are driven to uninstall and unengage with our app. I think for the purposes of this scenario, I'd like to propose that we look at dating apps because there is a lot of variety. It's a very competitive industry. It gets especially competitive around the holidays when everyone wants to bring someone home to their families. And so we can imagine, for example, that we are a dating app, say we're Tinder. And we know that one of the things that is complained about the most by our users is that there are bots and catfish on our app. We're trying to address this within the product, but how do we convey to a returning user through our screenshots that we've made changes and that they can expect to meet real people on the app? So let's just try searching for real people and see what comes up. We're in the social networking section now. And you can see that while not all of these are dating examples, they all have a sort of flirtation and romance undercurrent when it comes to just like chat apps or social networking apps. You can see that a lot of apps are advertising that there are real people involved. And so we can go through these examples and we can determine which screenshot in the lineup this is for each of these competitor apps. And if any of them are particularly interesting, something we want to pass on to our team, we can add it to a mood board. So let's say we are, yes, interested in this selfie. It looks like a real guy. He's conventionally attractive, but in an approachable way. He doesn't look like he's Instagram optimized, for example. So this definitely hits the verified real people target. It shows that there is a competitor who is interested in promoting the fact that they have real users on their app. And now we can see that this is one example we could reference. So if we wanted to continue this work, we could feature different new and relevant features that were pain points for users in the past. If there's a security issue, you can search for the word security in social apps and see if there's been any activity amongst your competitors for advertising security features. Or if you are trying to rebrand in a specific direction, you could have, flirty as the prompt or something like that. It'll pick out instances of real people, as in the text within the image, but it also understands what that looks like, and can show you different examples of both.
Yeah, so it's as you said, so it's super interesting, and also like it's in one look you can clearly see, okay, some examples are, I think, AI triggered. Like it's you can see that some are not real people, so it's really nice to see like different strategies. And I guess it's also linked to the fact that some clients said, okay, they're leveraging AI for the creatives because financially speaking, like it's better. I mean, for them, it's easier to use AI, but you can clearly see like some apps are actually using real people still. They are still using real people, so that's really nice to see that. And also, what is great is that you can also see, to have the screenshot in a specific context. So here you can see that the screenshot you were talking about is not the first one. So maybe they didn't want to emphasize too much for on this visual. So it's always important to understand the context. That's really nice. So now that we've explored the screenshot library, I know there's a big topic, which is like the CPPs. This is something that a lot of users talk about. They don't necessarily know how to use them. Can you explain how you use them for redownloads, for instance?
Absolutely. I think this as a starting place for custom product page research is extremely powerful. We do have a custom product page explorer that I think we're going to get to in a minute. But the concept is that you can tailor the version of your store page landing page, that users are seeing based on inbound linking or now through specific organic searches. So, for example, if we are Tinder, um, we might have a CPP specific to date singles or date locally, something like that, that we could then tailor and tweak to have specific imagery that conveys that these are young singles who are trying to meet, or that there's a map in the background to convey that there is a location-based feature that's going to be used here. And you can target these different groupings within Apple Ads. You can also tailor specific user acquisition campaigns and match your creative for that campaign on really any network that you're running ads on to a more familiar view of your product page. So this is the CPP Explorer. This is one of my favorite places on our tool. Flavian, you want to talk about what this is?
Yeah, I'm just gonna explain how it works, and then we can maybe show some concrete examples. So basically, this is the CPP Explorer. So here you have three subsections, and basically what we do in the first one is that we look at the top apps. Of course, you can look at kind of a date range to see you want to look at all the top apps for a specific period of time. And then what we're gonna do is that for all these top apps, we're gonna try to see if for the ads, they were actually some CPPs running. And what is great is that you can see for these top apps if, okay, the screenshot set that they used for the CPP, on which keywords they actually used the CPP. And if you want to actually compare it with the default screenshot set, you can easily open this drop down so that you can have the full context, the full picture, let's say. So this is the first section. Then we have by app. If you have a real competitor, that you want to analyze, we do the same. So basically, every time that we fetch the data for this, for specific keyword, for a specific app, then we can detect if there was a CPP. And here we gather all the CPPs that we detected for a specific app. And then the last one is really for all the keywords that you think are important for you. If you start typing this keyword, then we'll just display all the CPPs that we detected. So that can be very insightful depending on the strategy that you want to adopt. So you were talking about dating apps. So I don't know which subsection you want me to start with. Maybe this one?
Yeah, we're here on my by keyword. So let's just see, assuming again that we are Tinder, what
Mhm.
are our competitors doing versus what are we doing to use CPPs? So let's just look for Tinder. And here we'll be able to see not only our custom product page, but all of the competitor custom product pages that are targeting our branded keyword. When it comes to that reinstall mindset, you have to remember that your competitors are trying to snag those people away from you. Hilly here has a very aggressive uh, mentality, I think. You meant Hilly, right? That is extremely aggressive. And you can imagine that a user who's searching for Tinder and sees that right underneath might be compelled to check it out. So, how do you compete with this? Um, you have to think about whether or not you, first of all, are going to spend enough on Apple ads to defend your brand from this kind of attack. And then, if you are going to do that, you want to make sure that whatever version of the store is being seen through that ad is the most compelling it can possibly be. So, tailoring it to the type of user, returning user, generic search user, the better your results are going to be and the higher your conversion rate will be, the more efficiently you can spend. So if we keep scrolling down, it looks like Hilly has a lot
Yeah.
of CPPs right now,
Actually,
actually.
I directly clicked on so that we can show this subsection. So I directly clicked on Ely, and then we can see all the CPPs, and it's definitely what you explained. And you can see all the different dating apps that they're targeting.
Oh, wow. And this one is for Hinge. And if you're at all familiar with dating apps, whether you're on them or you're like me and you need to research them for work, you'll notice that those first two screenshots are actually using the same font, the same layout, the same colors as the actual Hinge app screenshots. So that's extremely aggressive. Is this something that Hinge, if they were watching, would maybe want to try and take action against? Maybe. And we don't necessarily endorse something quite this direct. But if you are trying to re-engage people, that be real, connect for real, uh, later screenshot might be a compelling first screenshot. If people are looking for Tinder, uh, specifically, what are they doing to show different sides of their app? This last one's really great. The match you haven't met yet. This is a very good strategy that you could use for a returning user. The idea is that if you reinstall, you should be able to meet the person that you weren't able to meet before. So having a strategy that's focused on this and then also focused on different subgroups of people who are trying to use your app. Maybe they're LGBTQ, maybe they're looking for a specific age range like senior dating versus college dating. But you can tailor those custom product pages and use this feature and the screenshot library to research your creative direction before you do so.
Yeah. So that was super interesting, insightful. We talked a lot about so mainly screenshots and how you can reuse them for the CPPs. So that's one thing, but also I know in-app events are also like a big topic for clients. I heard so many clients saying, "How can I use in-app events? Do we have enough data or something? Like, what are the best practices, let's say, to use them, to leverage them?" So yeah, can you talk about the in-app events and in the context of your downloads, how could you use them?
So I mentioned earlier in our chat that the user experience is actually very different for returning users, especially on the App Store. What I've been alluding to is in-app events placement, because when you have a returning user and you have an in-app event live, they actually see that when they click through into your store listing, they see that in-app event placement above your screenshots. And if they're searching for a branded term and you have an in-app event running, they'll also see that in their search results. This is similar on Google Play. If you have an in-app event running and there's a branded search on Google Play, it'll show there. But on Google Play, promotional content is more used for increasing your browse organics, basically increasing your visibility and strategic timing around that. But we've seen from the data that in-app events are very effective at re-engaging lapsed users, regardless of their install state. So I do recommend that if you have access to in-app events and you have a creative team that can iterate quickly and do some research and create those images, that you pay a lot of attention to this. Here we have top app creatives, and you can actually filter for in-app events or promotional content. Flavian, do you want to talk about this? I know it's a little bit different from what we were looking at before.
Yeah, so basically this section we look at the top charts and all the top apps that you can see. Then we just gonna filter these apps so that we only see the ones within app events, and we directly display them here so that you can see which apps are actually like investing in these in-app events, and you can understand a bit better the strategy. So I think the example that we have right now, we talked a lot about dating apps, so maybe we can. So that's really nice because we use the app DNA as well. This is something that AppTweak worked a lot on because the store categories are very broad, you know. So now you can really fine tune your research and really look at only dating apps. So here it is, and yeah, a lot of
Fabulous.
yeah.
So we can see here that you can filter by, app type, app name, and in-app event type. It looks like most of these are major updates, but if we wanted to filter by event type, we could also look at the other special event tag, which is the other most successful and most used type of event that we see in this category. And you can see here that these are getting a lot of investment within this ecosystem. We've got examples of videos, which is extremely underutilized in my opinion. We've got a bunch of special events that convey specific seasonality, specific in-app content like articles, guides, new prompts, even when that's relevant. And so if you're not sure what your app could put forward as an in-app event, if you've never run live ops, you can use this to discover what kinds of events your competitors are running in your app DNA category. And then you can strategize about how that might apply to your app and your content.
Yeah, so that was interesting because you talked about the promotional content that are actually like a kind of if we want to mirror what we had for the in-app events, it's kind of okay. This kind of we could think that it's the same for Play Store, but as you explained, it's not necessarily the same. And do you feel like the strategy could you should replicate what you have on iOS? And use the same and yeah, you reuse it for the Play Store?
I think that it's better than nothing. I think that since they do share half of the same creatives, the only difference in creative setup is that you need an extra square creative to run promotional content. You can set it up exactly the same way, but there are some different guidelines that each app store has about what is allowed. So make sure that you are compliant or you'll get rejected. And also just expect that the metrics are going to look different from one platform to the other. So if you're running promotional content, you can see that a lot of this is the same imagery that we were seeing for the iOS selection for in-app events. What's different is the actual text accompaniment and also how this is going to impact the ecosystem. On Google Play, we've got much more of a chance of increasing browse, installs, impressions, and increasing conversion rates there because Google Play likes to show these featured events to more and more of their user base within algorithmically generated lists.
Mhm.
So if you ever have like an inkling to go on your phone and look up what live events are happening now, that's where this will show. But on iOS, you really are focused more on re-engaging users you already have or have lost. And one of the main metrics you'll see impacted is re-downloads and then also app opens. So for your user base who are not necessarily the most engaged, if you want a DAU spike, we definitely recommend having a strategically running in-app event on iOS just to re-engage users within your app, put more attention on the content that's about to happen and get people back in the app.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And also, like, you can see that you have a full description and it matters as well. So we talked a lot about the creatives,
Yeah.
but I guess it's also important not to forget about the description and what is the message that you want to share. Um,
Yes.
and do you have like some advices? Because we talked about special events and major updates. Uh, do you have some best practices on how you could identify as a user, as a app developer, which event you should prioritize?
Hmm. I think for a lot of these live event, premiere, challenge, competition, new season, those are very gaming focused. So if you are a gaming app where you have multiple games under your umbrella, thinking about scheduling actual in-app live ops is going to be fabulous for you because you can surface all of that content within the App Store. However, for non-gaming apps, utility apps, dating, finance, you name it, there's not as much to work with. So at minimum, I recommend whenever you have a major update to your build, you're introducing a new feature, you've got bug fixes, you name it, just have something there to alert users to the major update. The visual can be anything. I tend to recommend something that is both on brand and immediately conveys what your app does. So for some of these, there's a bit more visual representation of what the app is supposed to be within this placement than others. I recommend that if you have a way to convey visually what your app does, that you use that here for every major update. And then
Right.
special events is where you're going to have as kind of like your catch-all for all other types of events you want to run. And it's very subjective. So regardless of the intent behind it, there's a chance that whoever is reviewing the events at Apple will agree that it's compliant or have specific feedback for you. So just experiment with what you're allowed to show and then run more special events of the types that have been most successful for you over time.
Yeah, super relevant, super interesting. So yeah, we talked about the re-downloads. We can see that it's very a vast topic.
Yes.
We still need to talk about the second topic, which is market research for global expansion. So maybe you can introduce this topic and see how we can leverage the AppTweak tool.
Absolutely. So if your primary market is already saturated with 70% of people having installed your app before, you need to reach a little bit further in order to explore new users and capture more attention globally. And we found that this is more and more the strategy that our clients are taking. We've been using the market intel features to try and understand the ecosystems for these different apps. We've got our metadata localization features, which are super useful for that. But I think that the creative optimization is just as important, if not more important, if you are planning on expanding globally. So, for example, you've decided you want to expand into India and you aren't really sure where to begin. You know that you've got several different languages that you want to localize into. You've had translators or used ChatGPT or Google Translate or something to translate your metadata into those languages. But how do you tailor your creative presence for the Indian market. And that's where we would use more of these features within the Creative Hub, and that is the Localization Insights page.
Yeah.
And I know you and I worked a lot on this together. I
Yeah.
gave you so much feedback. So please tell our viewers what it's like to have made this feature.
Yeah, so basically, it's true that we noticed that so many users, basically, if they want to understand the localization strategy of some apps, basically, they need to have a phone so that they can localize in another country, or just find a way to see their visuals in another country, which is not that it's very manual and it's very tricky. So we understood that. So basically, what we do here is that we will fetch for all the countries that you've selected, we'll fetch all the metadata, and we will group them if we see that they are the same. And if they're not the same, every row that you see is a different set of creatives. So that's really nice because you can clearly see, okay, they have a specific strategy for this group of countries, a different one for this group of countries. So it's straight to the point, and in a few views you get there are many insights. So for you, Elizabeth, like why?
Yes.
I mean, well, how would you use it? We had the example of the dating apps, maybe that we can take again.
Sure. So the first thing I would do is start by identifying a single competitor, because this is, I think, most powerful when you're looking at a powerhouse competitor. So let's choose Tinder here under yep, here we go. So you can see that Tinder is already making use of localization and culturalization. Looking at these app store pages, it sort of feels like a spot the difference game. Like, how many changes can you spot? I think right up front, we can see that the language itself has been localized. So we've got English as the default, and we've got German there. If we scroll down, it looks like we've got a bunch of other languages and language groupings selected. There's France and Belgium using the same set of screenshots there, and everything is translated to French. But you can also see that for many of these, they're using the same template, but with specific imagery changed out. And this makes sense, especially for a dating app, because if you are dating in a specific country and it's ethnically very homogenous, it might not make sense to show, a white couple as the first one. Or if it's super ethnically diverse, you'd want to showcase that diversity. So we've got different models in these stock photo placements showing that this is the sort of person you would be able to meet in this app in this country. And then we also have examples of different layouts, whether this is an intentional thing or if they're working on updating their layouts over time and we're just catching them in an interesting transitional spot. Hard to say, but for some countries and localizations, layouts can matter a lot. I know, for example, that in Japan, the creatives are very busy. They've got a lot of words in both English and Japanese scattered throughout. They're usually much more colorful than their international counterparts. And so if you had an app for which that was brand appropriate, you could consider completely overhauling your layout within these localizations as well.
Mhm.
But here you can definitely see some division between the models, at least. And I think this validates that for a gaming a gaming company might not be able to use this kind of insight, but for a dating company, culturalization is extremely important. Actually, but now that I've thought about gaming, maybe we can take a look at a international gaming example also.
Yeah, I would just add one feature that may be interesting for our users is the fact that, if because we don't speak like all the languages in the world, so maybe like for some countries, you want to understand what is the message that they
Yeah.
wanted to promote on specific screenshots. So you can easily, trigger the translation, and we will just translate all the text that you have on a specific screenshot. So I see that here the message is kind of the same, but maybe they can also like differentiate based on a different message for a specific group of countries, let's say.
Yeah, I've come to take this part of this feature for granted because when I was doing this sort of analysis before we had this feature, I was downloading each individual screenshot, running it through ChatGPT to get translations. The translations weren't always the best. So this one-stop shop is actually really, really useful. I just take it for granted constantly.
So yeah, here it's quite simple. It's actually quite satisfying to just translate it in one click. But also I think that something that we need to mention is that I don't know if our audience knows about this, but the three first screenshots are really, really important. And we know that you can really use this scale so that you just look at the main screenshots that you see, because from what I understood, on your phone, basically on the stores, the first screenshots that you see are actually the first three ones,
Yes.
and you can really play with that.
Yeah. It's first 3 for App Store, first 4 for Google Play, and all of them should be readable on a tiny little handheld device because you can't guarantee that your user base is using only the biggest and best and most recent phones as well. So that's a really good call out.
So you were also mentioning that.
Oh yeah. So if we're looking at games, I think actually poker games are a really good example because it is internationally very popular, but different countries have different restrictions. So the Pokerist is a great example. They are, I believe, based in the EU, and they've translated their Pokerist Texas Hold'em app into tons and tons and tons of different languages. They're even available in South Korea, which I know for a fact is like the hardest gaming market to break into because they have so many restrictions and requirements for being able to list apps there, especially when it comes to simulated gambling. So having this as an example, we can see that basically the copy for the first screenshot is the number 1 poker in insert geo name here. And this is very consistent across all of the different languages, but you can see they're also adding things like the country's flag. If they wanted to be extra specific, they could swap out that French flag for a Belgian flag and have 2 different localizations for the French language tailored to Belgium, for example. And we care about this because we're a Belgian company. But so if you are in a market where you aren't really sure what the difference in requirements might be for entry to the App Store, using this localization insights feature can also give you product insights because you can see if there are different products that are being highlighted from, one country to another country. You can look at if they have any sort of RNG certification required, if that's being advertised in the screenshots as well. It can be extremely powerful. And we have we can also, I think, show whether or not these are applied to certain, sorry, could you expand that where it says plus 14? This will help you understand. Yes, this will help you understand where your competitors are not localizing and using the default as well.
Yeah, that's nice. And also because here we see the screenshots, but basically it works with all the different creatives that we mentioned. So that could be interesting to see. I don't know if sometimes they're just localizing one specific metadata, the screenshots, and then the icon stays the same. If there's a reasoning behind it, sometimes they just maybe forget, I assume. But that's great to check out all the different types that we have, all the creatives that we have.
Absolutely.
So that's really nice. So now that we've covered this, I know there is also something that is pretty powerful if you want to highly contextualize your creatives. And of course, I'm talking about CSLs, but this is more for Android. So maybe a couple of words about CSLs.
Totally. CSLs, we think of them as the Google equivalent of product page optimization or custom product pages, but they're not quite. Not quite. If we go to our CSL Explorer, it says it's in beta because we're constantly updating it. But we can look by category or by app to understand what kind of listings our competitors are using, of course, but you'll see a side-by-side view of what is different. So if you've got localized text, it'll show the difference in the localized text. If you've got localized screenshots, it'll show the difference there, including the icon. Custom store listings are unique because they are the only place you can change your icon and your display name. So you can actually have a different app title, basically, between CSLs, which can be extremely powerful, especially for localizations where having a different string of exact match keywords at the end of your title can make a big difference in your organic search results. So here it's highlighting what's different. We can see from a lot of these examples that it can be quite different creatively. But to talk about the dating example again, I do want to mention that because Google Play is localized based on language and not necessarily country grouping, this allows you to target specific countries, which is extremely powerful. Here we have an example of the dating app Muzz, which is a Muslim dating app that is specifically marriage oriented. And on Google Play as a default, you would only be able to create an Arabic translation with one default set of screenshots. However, across the Middle East, culture is so diverse. You've got different levels of modesty that are implied, different levels of religious observance, different dating and cultural traditions that need to be accounted for. So some places it wouldn't even be appropriate to show a man and a woman in the same image. So how do they get around that? Well, Muzz has created different custom store listings for a ton of different Middle Eastern localization and countries. And you can see based on the description, the short description and the long description are different. We can translate that to English to understand just how different it is. It looks like we've got a difference in tone here. It also looks like we've got a difference in the kind of language that's being used. And then certainly when you're looking at the screenshots, you can tell that the screenshots are using different types of models. They've got different value propositions. And so while the template is pretty much the same and some of the models and characters are the same, here you have a woman who's not wearing any sort of head covering, but for other localizations, it would be very strictly every woman has her head covered. And that's completely contextual based on the country that you're trying to target.
Indeed, we can see that here for this example. So it's in Saudi Arabia. Even the description, they really emphasize on, they added keywords such as Muslim. Also, the emojis are different. So they really worked on a very different set of creatives and metadata. So I think this one is super powerful. And I think from what I heard from one of my colleagues that this, Muzz, the team working for Muzz is actually listening to this presentation right now. So this is what I've heard. So I hope they can be proud of this great example.
Yeah, shout out to the Muzz team.
Yes.
You are really doing it. You're doing it so well. Much applause.
So I think just to wrap up, because I think we covered a lot of different sections, a lot of different topics. And just so you know, because so Apple, we talked about the CPPs a lot and also about the CSLs. So we know that for the CSLs, it works also like for keywords. And for the CPPs, before it was only for ads. but now we have organic CPPs, and we know that these tools are really important for you. And this is why, like in the coming month, basically we will also launch these features so that you can analyze the organic CPPs. So I think it will be very insightful for you. And the next update that I can share, so it's upcoming, and basically it's for the screenshot library. And for this one, so we didn't really talk about it, but basically it's really important that you also adapt your screenshots based on some big events. So here, the what you cannot do is that you cannot select the specific date range, so that you cannot see what happened during Halloween or Christmas or the New Year's Eve. And it's very important that you also, take that into account for your strategy. So it's coming soon. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, stay tuned. It's coming soon. Um, I think, I don't know if you want to wrap up, Elizabeth, before we start the Q&A.
Sure. So just a quick overview of what we've gone over. We've talked about the issue of expansion. How do we reckon with an ecosystem where about 70% of users for mature apps are returning users? How do we grow from there? How do we retain and re-engage existing users? The answer is through custom product pages and in-app events. And then when it comes to growth, we want to grow globally. So we need to do a lot of market research, and we need to localize and culturalize our store listings. And for that, we have the localization insights page, and more recently, the custom store listing explorer page. We hope that this sort of gives you a lot of ideas of where to go from here. I know that we just covered a lot, though, so I think maybe with the last 10 or so minutes of this session, we can take questions. We have a question that is, are we planning to provide a feature for CPP for keywords of iOS?
You like to have, so we already have, like for this section, like in CPPs, we have by keyword, so you can search for these. But maybe, I don't know if this user thinks about, okay, just an analysis of these keywords. That's interesting in these, like how you could leverage this. For now, when you look at the keywords here for some CPPs, you can still download these keywords or copy paste them in the keyword tool, so that then you can analyze them. But that's a nice feedback, like a nice idea, to have kind of a keyword picker where you see all these keywords displayed. It might be easier, indeed. And yeah, just checking here. Oh,
I have another user asking, any tips on what keywords to leverage for returning users? For this, I will speak to it. I think whatever your top performing keywords are what you should be leveraging. It's true that for the dating app example, for just pulling one out, if someone were to search for new dating app, then they'd be looking for something different from what you are providing. But if you're already trying to recapture returning users and you're pretty sure that they make up the vast majority of your baseline traffic, just searching for your app's name, then you can run an experiment with the CPPs to see if your returning users are more drawn to a specific different set of images than your default. So in this case, maybe the product page optimization feature through Apple will be the more effective way of testing this. Or if you are trying to run for Apple ads specifically, you can look at your downstream metrics to inform what kind of users are coming through with each grouping, with each cohort.
nice. I see another question about benchmarks for in-app events. So just so you know, we have a section creative benchmarks, and here basically we compute these benchmarks on the top apps. You can select if you want to see benchmarks for the top 5 apps, top 30, 50, etc. And basically we show you, okay, kind of the distribution for the in-app events type. based on, of course, the category you've selected. And it's really nice because in one view, you can clearly see the average duration, how many in-app events they are running among the top apps, if they have how many apps in the category have in-app events. So that's really great insights. And we have the same for promotional content, so you can really leverage this section. It's quite new here in the Creative Hub, but you can really play with it. Can't wait for your feedback.
And I'm seeing another question about Genshin Impact, that they had a major update in September and that they did a big bundle of in-app events for iOS with every little new feature as content, but only one general event for their Android users. Any insights here, they ask? And yes, I think this speaks very much to that different metric focus per platform. So on iOS, you're allowed to choose the level of priority that each of your in-app events gets. And because it is meant to engage returning users, having a whole slew of events, some of which overlap each other and have different sort of complementing and conflicting, sort of a cascade of events, if you will, you'll keep users more engaged for a longer period by piling on more and more new things for them to look at. But for Android, when you have an event running, you only really have one event at a time that will get the featuring. And there's you have to apply specifically for individual featuring. And when you are given a priority featuring on Google Play, that's the most like high traffic prioritized event that you'll run. You get a certain number per quarter. So it's much better to be really strategic, put all your eggs into one basket, have a long running event that's just going to be shown over and over and over again throughout those different in-app event or promotional content placements throughout the store. And then hopefully gain a lot of new users through that. So for new user acquisition, it's not as useful to show all of the different tiny feature changes and live ops updates as they're coming out. It's just not as powerful. And hopefully that answers your question.
I also see like another question about the reviews and how could you get, run an analysis on reviews and then come up with ideas that you can reuse in the screenshots. So I think, well, in terms of features on AppTweak, we have the App Reviews Manager, which is like another tool, but that's also like another, so maybe there will be like another webinar talking about the App Reviews Manager, but maybe it's interesting, this topic about, okay, how can you use what you see in the reviews in your screenshots? I don't know if you have a few words to say about that.
I've been doing a lot of work on this for a couple of clients recently, so I have a lot of words to say on it, but in the interest of time, I'll try to keep it short. We have also a sentiment analysis feature that is not tied to the App Reviews Manager that I highly recommend everyone check out if you can. You can look at the trends for your ratings and reviews, and you can take as small and minute a chunk of time or as big as like multiple years of reviews, and it'll spit out this beautiful little color-coded chart where the words that are most commonly repeated are shown in specific colors that correlate to what level of rating was applied. So all of your positive reviews, if they've got certain words in common, they'll highlight in green. Negative reviews will highlight in red. And then there's an orange, yellow, and a lighter green that sort of shows the like 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. And you'll notice significant trends. I know that for a lot of apps that are freemium and have ads, you'll see a lot of red that says ads or too many ads. The longer the phrase, the more powerful that repetition is, because that means that people have been repeating that specific phrase and not just the words that make it up. So definitely pay special attention to that. And some of this is going to be just, in the dating app example, I didn't meet any matches. That's not something that you as a developer can really account for. But if they have a specific problem, you might still be able to address it within your screenshots. And then if you aren't already doing it, you should definitely have somebody reply to that review and tell them what you think the solution would be. And that's where the app reviews manager really comes in clutch, because you can set automations that say, okay, if somebody talks about too many ads, we'll send them a AI generated customer service tone of voice tailored response that sounds like a real human, addresses them by name, recognizes their concerns, and then gives them a solution and a way to reach out for more information. And we've seen about a 3% review and rating update happens when you have a 100% reply rate to your reviews. So that is extremely powerful. You can change 3% of people's minds on average.
That's nice. Thanks for all the insights. I think we don't have any more questions. But thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth, for sharing all your insights. And yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have feedback, feature requests. We're always here to hear new ideas. And yeah, stay tuned for the next office hours and the next updates. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks so much,
Thanks a lot.
everybody.